Well, I have 7:01.
Yep.
So I'd like to say hello to everybody. Hi, on behalf of Bet Aviv Sisterhood, welcome to all the organizations represented at tonight's presentation. I'm Sheila Schneider, member of Bet Aviv and chair of the Community Service Committee. And I want to go to the next slide, please, to thank all the OMI Green Team liaisons of the congregations on slide 2 for promoting this event to their members: Columbia Jewish Congregation, Columbia Baptist Fellowship, Kol Nefesh, St. John the Evangelist Roman Catholic Church. And on slide 3, you will see the participating organizations and funders. So, we go to slide 3. I think you skipped slide 3.
What's next?
There we go. Nope, there you go.
Okay.
Nurturing Nest Montessori School, Yards Alive, Oakland Mills Middle School, Bayahed, Oakland Mills Jewish School, Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake, Interfaith Power and Light, and the funders Oakland County Office of Community Sustainability and the Oakland Mills Community Association. And as was said, please enter your name and the organization or congregation that you belong to in the chat. And also in the chat, please enter any questions you might have for the speakers. And again, if you're not a speaker, please put yourself on mute. We'd appreciate that. Thank you. And now I'd like to say a prayer for tonight's gathering. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight in a spirit of community and learning. For the sake of our children, our grandchildren, and future generations, may we be inspired to respect and care for our planet. May we honor one another and our presenters by being attentive, courteous, and respectful as we share in this fellowship. May our minds be open to the information shared with us tonight and be grateful for this opportunity to enhance our knowledge. And may we be guided by the tradition of all faiths to honor life, environment, and justice. Amen. And now I'll hand the program over to Shel Ginsberg, a member of Bet Aviv and Bet Aviv's OMI Green Team Liaison. And Shel will introduce our speakers.
Okay, thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you so much for setting up this meeting. It's wonderful to have people from all organizations with us. And it's my pleasure to introduce our 3 speakers. On the slide, you see our 3 speakers, Wendy, Bonnie, and Hans, plus Joel Thompson, who's a CJC Green Team member. First, I'm going to speak about Bonnie. Bonnie is with CJC. Her educational background is a degree in communications, public relations, and political science. Her work history includes working in several nonprofit organizations, as well as more than a decade as a real estate agent. But since 2015, she's been working for Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake. And in that role, she guides many diverse congregations in our region to start and sustain their environmental initiatives. She's also a very active volunteer. She's been in the school PTAs of her 4 sons, and she's a past chair for 12 years or so for the CJC Green Team. She's currently on our county's Jewish Community Relations Council, as well as the MLK Holiday Commission. Okay. Our second speaker is Wendy Hall. Wendy studied biology at Hebrew University of Jerusalem and has 2 doctorates, one in zoology, one in veterinary medicine. She retired from the Department of Agriculture, where she worked on invasive species, climate change, and environmental risk analysis. She currently works as a part-time veterinarian, and she enjoys many volunteer activities. These include dog rescue, gun violence prevention. She's a master watershed steward, an almost master naturalist, and she works with Yards Alive, which you'll hear about. And she's,
Yeah, I think so.
she's also,
There's Hans.
Yes, and she's also active as the current chair of CJC's Green Team. Okay, finally, our third presenter, the tall
It
man on the
automatically
right.
moves, I think.
Yeah, also a CJC member. Hans has worked as an environmental scientist for over 40 years. He has 2 master's degrees, one in environmental chemistry and one in toxicology. And presently, he's the principal in Safe Chemical Analytics LLC, which is a consulting firm dealing with chemical safety data. Hans has made major contributions to our Interfaith Center by coordinating the writing of 3 grant proposals, all of which we've received. And he's also guiding the execution of what we've committed to do. Hans's hobbies include gardening, cooking, and railroads. He cooks for railroad tours. So you can see these are all high energy people. So you've gotten the word to put your questions in the chat. We hope you have lots of questions. And without anything further, Bonnie, please begin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe, for that great introduction, and trying to get my slides to go. There we go. Did it advance? Yay. So at the Oakland Mills Interfaith Center, for those of
No,
you who are not,
It didn't advance.
it didn't advance. Are
Okay,
you-
now it did.
All right, and then we've got some people that aren't muted, so if my co-hosts can try to work on that. Great. So let me just explain a little bit about what the Oakland Mills Interfaith Center is for those of you who are not familiar with the concept. So in Columbia, which is a planned community, the idea was that people of different faiths, congregations would come together in shared space to worship. So at our Oakland Mills Interfaith Center, give or take, we have 4 or 5 congregations that share this space. So that means that we have one ground. So when we're talking about the different programs that we're going to outline tonight, what I'd like for those of you that don't have a similar situation to understand is that, you know, the in the ground work certainly is something that individual congregations would need to pursue, but I'd like you to focus in on how these congregations have worked together on their community engagement and outreach, because that is something that all congregations, where no matter where you are, that you can reach out to congregations around you and do similar types of programming to them. So with the OMI Green Team, we have focused on 4 different main topics. Those include wildlife habitat. So you're going to hear more about our pollinator gardens and our tree plantings, working on plastic reduction, watershed health, and energy and climate. Hold on, my slides are a little bit slow. There we go. So just a little bit of background. We're going to be talking most of this evening, we're going to be talking about what's happened in the last year to 18 months. But to give you a little bit of background, prior to this time, we did have on our grounds 4 rain gardens that were installed through the READY program in Howard County. And we also did, we planted 60 trees back in 2015 as an interfaith effort. We also used to sponsor a community supported agriculture program. So we've had a long history of working together, and that has ebbed and flowed over the years, sometimes stronger, sometimes not so much. But I would say that this last year and a half, it has been a real whirlwind, and we're going to explain that to you now. And why has it been a whirlwind? Well, in 2022, the OMI Green Team applied for and received 4 different grants. And just to outline these grants to you and to give you some background knowledge on grant writing and proposal writing. So I want to just start with an explanation of what in-kind means. So when you apply for a grant, you're applying to get money, right? And so some grantors, the funders that fund the work, don't require you to have what they call match. Match can be cash match. That's always nice, right? So Some grants will say it's a 1-to-1 match ratio. So for every dollar they give you, you have to match it with $1 in cash. Other grants give you credit for what's called in-kind support. So that can be anything from use of space or volunteer hours. So when we wrote these grants that I'm going to talk about right now, the grants that we applied for allowed us to provide in-kind match. And for the most part, the in-kind match that we provided was based on volunteer hours and some use of space and things like that. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of background about grant writing. So the first grant that we applied for together was through the Howard County itself, and it's called the Plastic Reduction and Environmental Protection Grant, PREP for short. And essentially, and this will be interesting for those of you who are in Baltimore County, the funding for this grant opportunity comes from the plastic bag fee that is imposed in Howard County. So what the county does is they take the fees that everyone pays when they don't bring their reusable bags with them. They take all that money that they make from that fee, and they've now started granting that out to help with education and outreach to reduce the plastic waste within the community, with Howard County community. So we applied for a PREP grant, and we applied for $27,000 in cash. And we said we would provide $47,000 in an in-kind match, which was mostly volunteer hours. And part of this grant was, and we'll go into more detail about this, but it helped us to purchase recycled grocery bags, nice reusable water bottles. We just installed a water bottle refilling station, water fountain. It's funding a great deal of education and outreach within our community, within the Oakland Mills community, and also some stormwater management. The second grant that we applied for, and our numbers are out of order there. We have 2 ones. Sorry about that. The second grant that we applied for was a stormwater retention on room 100. So you'll see pictures of that in a little while, but that is helping us to install a cistern and a native plant garden. That was $34,000. The cost of that was $34,000 with $10,000 in-kind match. The third grant we applied for was a pollinator garden grant that came through the Oakland Mills Community Association, which is the local neighborhood association. They granted us $1,200 to plant a pollinator garden. And then the fourth grant that we applied for was a design grant. So the 4 rain gardens that we have on site treat a lot of the runoff from the roof and one of our parking lots. Those of you familiar with the grounds, we have an upper parking lot, and that stormwater has not been treated at all. So that grant allowed for us to do a design to treat the runoff from the parking lot, from the upper parking lot. So altogether, that came to $78,000, give or take, in cash that we've applied for over the last year, that we've been awarded, and we're required to provide $72,000 in match, mostly in volunteer hours. So for the PREP grant, I mentioned the water bottle refilling station. So we just installed this at our congregation, and we're very, very excited about it. Literally, it just finally got installed last week. So we're very excited about our new water bottle refilling station, but we also are working on reducing our food waste. So I want to go into the food waste reduction program that we're working on. So the grant provided funding for us to buy compostable tableware for all of the events that we have at Oakland Mills Interfaith Center. So right now we have a communal kitchen that we all share, and you can imagine, how that works. So the supplies are all in the kitchen, and they're available for everyone to use for their different events that they're holding at the Interfaith Center. So it is also paying for, starting in January, I believe by the end of the month, it will pay for, we don't have community composting in Oakland Mills per se we're considered a a commercial business, even though we're a church, but it's a commercial operation. So there is no composting available through the county. So we will be paying a private compost company to come and pick up our compost. All of this is in an effort to reduce the amount of waste that's going to our landfill. You know, our landfills are filling up and we want to try to reduce how much waste is going into our landfill. So this is our effort to do that. So there's enough supplies in the kitchen for the events that you're having there. So if you're interested and want some information about what's available, and then if there's something that you need for your event, please let us know. We can purchase different items. We just kind of got started with the basics. So we need to hear from you about what you might also need. We've kind of piloted the use of these products already. We've had a couple of events where they have been used. So we really reduced the amount of waste that we're making in our food service. But what do we need? So people, this is new for people. So where we're asking, and at the end, we'll get to all of our volunteer asks, but we really would like to train more people to understand what's compostable and what's not compostable and where they should go, so that when each congregation that's having your events at OMI, that there'll be somebody on hand that can help you to understand where your different waste should go. Additionally, there's a picture here where also the grant helped us to pay for these very new snazzy waste receptacles. So now we'll be able to sort our trash throughout the building. I think we paid for 2 of these. They're pretty expensive. So this way people will be able to separate their trash from their composting and their recycling. So hopefully there's less black stuff than there is green and blue stuff. Another thing that the grant helped us to pay for was to, so we have these lovely green reusable water bottles now with the Green Team's logo on there. So we encourage you to reach out to us. It subsidized the cost of these. These are really high quality water bottles. So they're for sale for $10. They would make great gifts if you need to give like an honorarium to someone for coming and speaking at your congregation for something. This is a great thing to reach out to us and purchase the reusable water bottles from us. But also we've purchased reusable tableware, dishware, that is also in the kitchen, and flatware. Storage is an issue, so that's something that we need to work on together to try to figure out where we want to keep it. We would like to purchase more, but until we can figure out where we can keep it all, we need to work on that together. We also relatively recently had installed a commercial fast dishwasher in the kitchen, so that should help us to have more kitchen crews and hopefully get some more help to do those dishes, right? It's fun to do the dishes together. Then on stormwater management, this is part of our outreach and education effort. One thing that we really wanted to do was to get out into the community to help people understand the problem of polluted stormwater and where it goes. So we have worked together. St. John the Evangelist Roman Catholic Church spearheaded these with us. So this is a storm drain stenciling. So when you go past the storm drains in a couple of the communities that we've done this, it says that the storm drain drains to the Chesapeake Bay. This is a great activity for everybody to do, but young people really like to do that. So that's some kids that we're working on getting those storm drain stenciled. We've also done some tours throughout Oakland Mills, taking a tour of the different stormwater practices that are in our community. And at the rain gardens at the Oakland Mills Interfaith Center, we've also had some tours of those as well, and planted some additional trees in the pollinator garden. So additional outreach was done to a local middle school. So Oakland Mills Middle School is right down the street from the Oakland Mills Interfaith Center. And Hans, who you'll see later, he's right now, we'll get to it, but he's actually at a board meeting with the Oakland Mills board. He reached out and has worked with the science teacher and the PTA at the middle school to install these raised beds at the middle school to get the children, the students there engaged in planting vegetables, to understand greening their gardens. So this outreach they helped to build the garden. They worked with the Community Ecology Institute, which is a local nonprofit in Howard County. And there were volunteers that were present from Betteville, CJC, St. John's, and an organization you'll hear more about later called Yards Alive. So the OMI Green Team is helping with the maintenance of the garden. They helped to plant the garden the first week of October. They planted herbs and vegetables, some perennials for some pretty, to make some pretty flowers, and they covered the hoops. And they got their first harvest in December, which you don't usually think about harvesting in December, but here's a picture of some of the wonderful greens that they grew at the garden at the middle school. And they will be planting again in the spring. So another part of the outreach and education that we're doing is through, we were also able to purchase these reusable grocery bags. So just recently, well, let me talk about, so we talked about the compostable dinnerware that we used at a couple of our congregation events already. And then we purchased these reusable grocery bags. We handed out over 300 of them. You see that picture on the bottom. So one of our congregations, the Columbia Baptist Church, does a huge winter holiday Christmas food giveaway before Christmas, where everyone got turkeys and vegetables and canned goods and all the fixings for a holiday meal. And so we distributed the non-perishable goods and some of the vegetables in the reusable grocery bags. So now these bags are out in those underserved communities that may not have an abundance of reusable bags, so that they can then reuse them when they go do their regular grocery shopping. So this is spreading the word about reusable bags and plastic reduction within the community. And then just last week, we were able to donate about 200 of the bags to a local elementary school that has an internal food pantry for their community. So this way, when people come to pick up food from their local elementary school, they can get a reusable shopping bag as well. And then there'll be more about the Green Spring Fling on May 7th, 2023, but we're going to keep talking about that. So start marking your calendars now. Now I want to talk about the stormwater management that's actually going to be happening here. So for those of you who are not familiar with stormwater, comes off our roofs, and anything that's hard when it rains. So this is we went and did our site visit, and it was raining, so it was perfect. So we all got to see the rain and where it was going. So the picture on the left shows outside of what we call room 100. You'll see there's a downspout, and I think I can, right here, this is a downspout coming from the gutter, and that the water comes out of the gutter and spills off onto the top of the hill here, and then runs down this hill and is really eroding the side of this hill. And then this picture on the right is showing that all that water is running down to this storm drain right here. So it's it's picking up, all the water is picking up the sediment and the pollution that's coming off the roof, and it's all going directly into the storm drain. So we wanted to stop that. We want to stop the erosion. So what we proposed in that $34,000 grant was the installation of a cistern. And so that has actually been installed. It was hooked up to the downspout from the gutter. And you can see the cistern here. It's a 1,000-gallon cistern. And so the whole idea is, what we say is, slow it down, spread it out, let it sink in. So the purpose of the cistern is to slow the water down. So when it's raining, the water actually goes into the cistern and it holds onto it. And then we will release that water slowly after the storm is over. And I don't have a good picture, but I'm going to go back for just a second. So on this hill, what is going to be installed and designed is like a stepped, it won't quite be a rain garden, but it'll be stepped conservation landscaping. So when the water is released slowly, it will funnel down through the stepped gardens, so that it will slow down that water, so that it will not get to that drain, or very less of it will get to the drain. So we're very excited about that. And then I mentioned earlier our upper parking lot. So the upper parking lot has a lot of parking spaces. It's not really great here, but this stormwater is not being treated at all. And right here is the storm drain. So the idea was that we applied for the grant. It was $16,000 to design something to try to treat the stormwater that's coming off of this parking lot. And this is the plan, hot off the presses. I'm going to go ahead just a little bit. So the whole idea is where we were standing was over here on the parking lot. The water will be channeled underneath the driveway across to the other side. And there'll be two areas where the water will drain into and filter the water. And then if there's anything that's left over, it will come back over to the storm drain. So I think this is what the trench will look like going across the driveway, the parking lot driveway between the parking lot and the green area. And I think now I'm turning it over to Wendy. Is that correct?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much, Bonnie. Continuing on from what Bonnie was describing in terms of our various outreach activities at OMI, we recently had an event that we called Solar Solstice Sunday. And of course, it was on the Sunday right before the winter solstice. And the idea was that, you know, the days were just about to start getting longer. The sun was coming back and we wanted to use the sun to provide our electricity. So that was a big component of this event. We had 3 organizations that came and did tabling Sunday morning at the OMI in the lobby with what you see here. And that was an opportunity to catch various congregations and the religious school that were coming and going that morning. So we had the what's now called the Yachad Oakland Mills Jewish School has their classes. So the parents were dropping off and picking up their kids. The various churches, so Columbia Baptist Fellowship and St. John's had services. So their folks were coming and going. And so it was an opportunity to have folks who may not be aware of the kinds of things that we're talking about and promoting, you know, give them an introduction to it. So Interfaith Power and Light is, and as you can tell from the name, an interfaith organization, and it has a local group. And they came and they talked about the various services they provide. They are focused a lot on community solar, both for congregations and interfaith centers, as well as for individuals. And what is community solar? Well, community solar is basically local solar farms that provide solar energy to various individuals. So you can be a homeowner, but you can also be a renter. Anyone that uses electricity off the grid can purchase their electricity from these various solar farms or community solar. So Interfaith Power and Light works with a specific company, Neighborhood Sun, which actually are the ones that set up those memberships. And they were there as well and actually signing people up on the spot if they had a copy of their BGE bill with them. And our family has recently signed on to Neighborhood Sun, which is fantastic. We have solar panels, but they don't cover all of our energy needs. And so now that we're working with Neighborhood Sun, all of our energy comes from solar, which is really is a great feeling. In addition to those 2 organizations, Civic Works also came, and they are a nonprofit based in Baltimore. They do all kinds of wonderful things, including providing subsidized rooftop solar, as well as free energy audits. And several people who came by signed up for these free energy audits, where they also give out, you know, all different, you know, LED light bulbs and other tools to reduce your energy usage in the home. And they do energy efficiency work as well in the home. And of course, we had the OMI Green Team presenting on a lot of the things that we're talking about here and giving out some of these beautiful reusable and recyclable shopping bags. And we had information about composting and other things as well. So it was a very small event, but I think it was a very powerful one. And I think people had a lot of fun. And Bonnie made the coffee, and it was fantastic. Next slide. Okay, so this is a project near and dear to my heart. This is the new pollinator garden that is right in the front as you face the building, just to the right of the building. And hopefully some of you have already seen it. Obviously, it's not very active right now. We planted it at the end of October, and then we're mulching it and such in November. And so it's not very active right now, but in the spring, it should really come to life. And this pollinator garden was funded, as Bonnie said before, by the Oakland Mills Community Association. They had a grant program. We decided to go for it, and we got it. And we were just delighted. We were also working with a local Oakland Mills-based group, Yards Alive, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a pilot project out of the Columbia Association Climate Change and Sustainability Committee, I think is what it's called. Hopefully I didn't mess that up too bad. They wanted to see, like, hey, let's try this out in one of the Columbia villages and see if we can create a group that will encourage homeowners or renters or whomever to reduce the amount of lawn or turf on their properties and instead replace them with perennial gardens, preferably native plants, native perennial gardens. And the reason for that is a few things that we've already discussed. The decrease in runoff, because native plants have much deeper roots than turf, than just grass in your lawn. As well as the reduction in toxic inputs like fertilizers and pesticides that people use to create these beautiful lush green carpets. And of course, the decrease in the fossil fuel pollution. Lawnmowers produce a huge amount of CO2 and carbon emissions. Running a lawnmower produces, I believe, many times the amount of emissions of a vehicle over the same time period. So they're really, messy. And if we can reduce the amount of area that requires them, all the better. So that's what Yards Alive's mission is. And fortunately, they were able to partner with us in designing and acquiring the plants. We paid for them, but they actually found them and purchased them. And then several of the volunteers within Yards Alive came in addition to OMI volunteers to actually plant. And we had kids coming. It was really a lot of fun. And I think everybody had a great time. And you see some pictures of it right here. The garden, as you see the size, it's not a huge garden, but it's plenty big. There are about 100 plants. There are shrubs, and as well as perennial plants that will come up again in the spring. There should be blooms or seeds or fruits really year round as the garden becomes more established. Of course, when you plant a garden, that's really just the beginning of the work involved. And we will need folks from Oakland Mills Green Team and others, anybody from our various congregations, friends, whomever we can get to help us with maintenance, weeding, watering, but really probably just more for the first year or so. Native plants are great because they're adapted to our local environment and won't be needing much watering once it's established. Sometimes plants die, so they need to be replaced. We'll also be making signs specifically to identify the different plants in the garden. So we can go to the next slide now.
Before we leave this slide, I just want everyone to see, can you see all the grass that we have? There's just a huge lawn. And so this is where the driveway is, and those two proposed bioretention areas that will treat the parking lot from over here would go and eliminate more of the grass up here. So we're very excited about the prospect.
Yes, that's exactly right. And because the plants in that the new area that will be dealing with the runoff from the upper parking lot, those will also be native plants. And so they will provide the benefits to be discussed, but also as this garden, and you can tell from the name, pollinator garden, to benefit wildlife. So these gardens provide many services and perform many functions. So of course, when you have pollinators, you also have herbivores, insects that eat the leaves, which is a good thing, because those caterpillars are the best food for birds that are feeding their nestlings. And so by planting these plants, we don't just get a lovely garden, we don't just decrease stormwater runoff, etc., but we're also supporting an entire ecosystem, which we know is extremely important. Okay, so the next another thing we want to talk about are some of our green teachings, and this particular event has a long name with lots of E's, the Entertaining Evening on Electrification and Environmental Everything. And over here to the right, you see Doug Siglin, who works for the Chesapeake Climate Action Network, or CCAN as it's called. And he's an expert in electrification. And what is electrification? Just briefly, that is where you have electricity as the power source for a building, for a home, for what have you, as opposed to using fossil fuels such as methane, otherwise known as natural gas, or oil or whatever. So that was the electrification issue, was really probably the driving force behind creating this event. And of course, we had participation from the various interfaith OMI congregations. We had a display or a lineup of different electric vehicles, and people could come and check them out. We had kids and adults come and take some native plants. We gave those away. We gave them opportunities to plant them, take them home. We had presentations on electrification of various buildings. We had a lot of different groups coming, such as the Sierra Club, Yards Live that I mentioned before, and other such groups. Oops, Bonnie, I think, is telling me that I need to go faster. We're on the next slide.
No, I was just putting up this so that they would see what it looks like.
Okay.
Could I make two comments? Can I make two comments? I'm representing the Sierra Club. Department of Natural Resources, the actual figures are that lawn has 14 times as much stormwater runoff as those ecosystems that you plant, the native pollinator gardens, 14 times.
Wow.
Now, the woods behind where you see all those volunteers, that's sort of like a forest, right? Well, what happens when you have somewhat of a forest is that you don't have to plant natives, because if you remove the invasives, the natives have been hiding and they pop up. And that works about half the time.
Right.
So that's a nice way to plant.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So, but in any case, we can move on. No problem. Oh, do you want me to talk about these? So we had different speakers. Over on the right, we see a student, a sophomore in the Howard County Public Schools, who is instrumental and really active at organizing other high school students on climate-related advocacy. So he's been fantastic. We were really lucky to have him speak. Next slide. Okay, so we also, as part of this event, we got people to sign up to take native trees that were provided by the county. And as part of this big project to plant 1 million or 10 million, I can't remember, native trees. And the 85 was a question mark, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how many trees we gave away, but I know it was somewhere under 100, but close to it. And I hope that some of the people on this call actually got some of those trees. I know that I got a tree and we planted in our front yard, and I'm really excited about it. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, so is this my slide too? I think it is. So we want you to save the date. I talked a bit about our previous event that was back at the end of August. And we're going to have another one, a similar one, but this one's going to be earlier in the day. And it's right before Mother's Day. We're going to have different things for Mother's Day. There's going to be various nature-based kid activities. We'll have a watershed model, which is always a big hit with the kids because they like to, get everybody wet and play with the trucks and stuff on there. We'll have more EVs for people to see. We'll have more information about signing up for solar projects and learning about it. And various things that you can see on this list, but and more things. And in fact, if you guys have ideas about other activities or presentations that we can have at this event, please let us know, because we want to make it of interest and useful to our community, to the OMI community, to the Oakland Mills community, to whomever wants to come and partake. So your input would be really valuable. Next, please. Next slide.
Just so you know, I am doing it. It's just
I know
lagging.
there's just a lag. It's
There's just a
okay.
lag, so
Okay, so advocacy. So in addition to the things that we're doing locally and the outreach activities that we're doing at OMI and in the area, one of the things that we're really trying to do more and more of, and there's always more to do, believe me, is advocacy. And our current advocacy effort has been focused on building electrification that I described earlier. In addition to the discussion of it at our E5 or entertaining evening, etc., that we had back in August, we also co-hosted a couple of webinars with CCAN as well as HOCO Climate Action. And those were, I think, very, very informative. They are recorded. If anybody's interested, we can make sure that you can have access to them. So, so what we're trying to do with electrification is work at both the state level and the county level to increase and even require electrification, meaning only electric power going to new construction. As you probably know, we have some very aggressive goals, necessary goals for reducing or eliminating CO2 emissions from carbon combustion. And there's no way we can do that if we're still putting methane or natural gas into new buildings. And so we're trying to kind of get the low-hanging fruit. So that's a current, in fact, tonight, believe it or not, the county council is meeting and discussing a new bill on this very topic. Can't be everywhere, so I'm not there. If anybody's interested in this, I'd be happy to share this with you. I think that those OMI congregation members here, their representatives to the OMI Green Team should have access to links for signing on to letters to the county council, to the county executive, and more information. But if you don't have it, please feel free to reach out to me. I can get it for you. And of course, we're interested in advocacy for other issues as well. There are so many things. One of the things that we are very interested in is, if you haven't heard about it, the environmental human rights, I think it was called a
Amendment.
Thank you so much. My mind went blank. Amendment. It did not pass in the legislature last year. But there's still work ongoing for that. And if you're not familiar with Rabbi Nina Beth Carden, she is the lead in this effort, and the Green Team really stands behind this. So, and there's more stuff, and we are very open and really encourage folks to let us know which issues they think we should be, promoting and helping share information about. There are so many, so please let us know which ones, and obviously feel free to help us with promoting the ones we've already been working on. And I think that's it for me. Has he been able to join us yet? No? Okay, so let's go for the next slide. Bonnie, do you want me to take this one and then you jump in later, or how do you want to go? You're muted, Bonnie. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and then you can tell me, you can give me a signal, Bonnie.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, all right. I'm looking at your picture and you're frozen, so I can't see your
Sorry, yeah.
Anyway, okay. So congregational involvement. So it is, as Bonnie was saying before, we are an interfaith center, and we have multiple congregations that everybody kind of does their own thing. But when it comes to doing stuff in the building, on the grounds, and with the community at large, we really do need to work together. And so we as the Green Team, we're just like a core group of individuals, right? We need to get the word out to all of our congregations, which honestly can be really hard. Everybody's really busy. It's hard to read emails that come in. I know I get hundreds a day. So we're using different mechanisms to reach out to folks. So we have the OMI Green Team website is a big one. I know that the CJC Green Team website, which is actually, needs a lot of work, let me say that, but it links to the OMI Green Team website, which Hans is taking care of, and it is really great. So if everybody in the OMI community of the congregations can link to his website, if you haven't yet, that would be a way for people to get information about what's going on, the calendar, what sort of activities have happened in our schedule. And of course, a really important way for congregations to be involved is to involve your members, get your members involved in our activities. And they're a lot of fun. I mean, you're outside for many of these things. And I'm really enjoying them. And I think that other folks will, and people of all ages, which is really beautiful. Like at this, planting of the OMI pollinator garden, we had little kids, we had retirees, we had young moms, and it was just, it was a lot of fun. And it was great to see people of different faiths, different ages coming together for a common cause. So we're also trying to launch a youth Green Team, and Hans has plans for this. He's already got a schedule for this spring, and we need kids, a youth to join it, and we need mentors. We need adults to help lead activities. Am I done with that slide?
Yep.
Oh, this is more details. Thank you. Yep. This is what happens when it's not your slide. You don't know what's coming next. Okay. So, so this is the schedule as it stands. And, so there's all different things that are in the works, like plantings, learning about stormwater, taking walks, doing stenciling, games and things that can be educational and fun for the kids. And it really, obviously, it's going to depend upon the age of the kids involved, the youth involved, as to what would be the best activities for them. And once again, the OMI Green Team webpage is a place to see those the calendar for those events.
Right. And I would just say that jumping in for Hans, because he's still not here yet. So this is something that he's set up for the first Sunday of the month from 12:30 to 4 for the next couple of, I believe it's starting in March.
Yep.
So we definitely want to work with folks from other OMI congregations to try to pull some youth into the green teams, either through your current youth groups or classes, or your like confirmation classes and things.
So, yeah, so we were talking about ways that you can help with the youth green teams, but there's so many other ways. You know, I mentioned before about helping with the pollinator garden. Our rain gardens need help too. Hans has set up these work days for the spring. And honestly, if those times don't work for you, I'm sure we can arrange other dates as well. There'll be plenty to do. If you're familiar with the Peace Garden, CUCC had put that garden in many years ago. And it's over on the other side of the front of the building, if you're familiar. And it needs some loving. And in fact, even before CUCC left the Interfaith Center, we were asked to convert it to a pollinator garden. That garden currently is a mixture of natives and non-natives. And so that's what we're planning to do. And it's going to be a big job because that's a big garden and we will definitely be needing help. The trees that we have need to be maintained, pruned, and such. We plan to do some plantings around the mulch that we've placed around them recently. The soil around those trees is not so good, which explains why they're so small after 6 or 7 years. And so we're really gonna need some help with them to help them grow. And ideally, we'll be planting more trees. We did just plant 3 more trees this year, but we expect to plant some more. Storm drain stenciling, we need help with that. The advocacy we talked about before. Environmental education outreach for the middle school and for our youth groups. Volunteering for a big event in the spring that we talked about. And, teaching folks how to do the composting versus the recycling versus what goes in the landfill for our events. That's really important. And we expect to have some training events so that everybody's on the same page with how to do that. We have the reusable water bottles. And in fact, they're in my house right now. And I would love for folks to buy them so that they have them and I don't. So they're beautiful. And I encourage you all to get some of those. And then of course, we will be actually submitting new grants and we can always use help in preparing, editing, and of course, reaching out to your congregations to make sure that their congregations sign the letters of support, which is critical. So next slide.
You want me to jump in here?
Yeah, sure. You can take over.
So just so all of you understand, Hans is supposed to do these slides.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here.
Oh, you were here. Good.
He was presenting to the OMI board, hoping to get their approval of the blueprint that we showed you earlier. And I don't know if you can see, is he sweating? Can you tell? Does he look shocked? Does he look beaten up? Hopefully they.
It looks like he's smiling.
The board meeting went okay. We'll need more steps, but
Okay.
all
right.
there are not any major concerns.
Great, wonderful. So we got through everything though, Hans. So you're here to, Hans has set up this great website and I'll let you talk about it. And then I'm gonna try to switch from the slides so you can see the website live. So go ahead, Hans.
Okay, so basically we put up a green team website because one of the things we wanted to make sure is that everybody knew what we were doing pretty well the day we were doing it. We have a number of sites. There we are. Our homepage basically is just our contact information. What really is most important for you to figure out is to go to our events page. And one of the things it mentions is everything that we are doing, have done, and it's just sort of a continuing progression of whatever we have done over the last couple of months. Look through there, because there are things that you probably missed out on and probably want to see done again. We will be doing more stormwater drain stenciling, but we did it already in the fall, and we will do it again. We will distribute trees again next year, which we did this year. We will do tree planting, all sorts of things. Hopefully we won't do 40 yards of mulch. That I probably can do without for next year. We did an amazing amount of mulch distribution, chip mulch distribution, and I think everybody was chip mulched out after that one for a long time. And the other thing we do is every event we have, we put up photos. And we try to put up as many photos as possible. There we are. This is actually on December 27th, when OMI was closed, but we were still working. We did a survey of all of the grounds of OMI to make sure that the design for the parking lot, you saw that wonderful map at one point on the right-hand side of the storm drain design. That is all activities that took place on the 27th of December. And we had to use my house for a warm-up spot because there was no other warm-up spot to be found anywhere near OMI. And one of the things you can also see here, something we will address down in the future, is that we have a significant icing problem on what I would like to refer to as the OMMS, the Oakland Mills Middle School trail, due to mostly grass growing too high relative to the concrete. And the grass is impermeable, as we all know. So basically the water just stays on the concrete and pulls up. Can you scroll down a little bit? I just want to show the picture of all the green bags. Bonnie?
Yep. Are you not seeing that?
No, you scroll down a little hair more. There we go. So we made, part of the grant is we made 1,000 reusable shopping bags. And one of the things that people, the county especially, was interested in is getting these into the hands of people who normally wouldn't spend the $3 to buy a reusable bag at the grocery store. So for the December/Christmas food distribution, we used all of the food, went out in green OMI green team shopping bags, which are lime green and very hard to miss. So if you see one, you know we gave it out. And the other green bags in this particular session are headed as of now to the Oakland Mills High School food bank, which is also serving an underserved population. And they will be getting their food in food bags. It does two things. It keeps plastic bags off the streets, which is a wonderful thing. And at the same time, it saves people that are not a very high financial capability 10 cents every time they go to the grocery store, because they don't have to pay for 2 plastic bags every time they go. So this is just a double win on everybody's part. I guess we can go back to the slides if we can. There we go. Excellent. So we have our leaders on there. I guess we go to the next slide. I think that's about, is there one more slide after this? Or have I two more slides, Bonnie?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry I couldn't get there earlier, but as usual, the other meeting ran a lot longer than it was supposed to, and I'll be glad to participate in answering questions.
I'm going to stop sharing, and so
Okay.
we can see each other. We do have some questions in the chat box, and it's perfect because I know one of them, Hans, so glad you came, because one of them wanted to know what happened to the vegetables that we grew, that were grown in the Oakland Mills Middle School garden. I know you know the answer to that.
Well, it was a sad story, really. I don't know if anybody remembers the Friday before Christmas weekend, but it was a nasty day. That was the day when it plunged 40 degrees in about 2 hours. Well, school was supposed to harvest the vegetables that day, except they closed the Howard County school system. So basically, I went out and harvested all of the plants because I knew they weren't going to survive another day. As a matter of fact, the covers had blown off at that point and cracked. So we harvested them, and we tried contacting every single food bank we could think of, and everybody was like, we have enough vegetables. So we finally ended up distributing that services because that was the only way we could get it into people's hands and not see it wasted. And I did not want to see them go to waste. And yes, the arugula was really spicy and it was really good.
I have to admit that I was one of the beneficiaries of these vegetables. I'm sorry they didn't go to their intended, audience, but I'm very grateful and they were delicious. The kale was amazing. Thank you, Hans.
And we will meet in this week, Thursday and Friday, at the nursery school and the Oakland Mills Middle School to start off their spring gardens, and we're hoping to start them off before March 1st. Yes, you can start vegetables before March 1st. You just put them in the ground, put a cover over them, and we'll have lettuce by tax day. So
we did have another question. I don't know if Ronnie is still here. Ronnie Berkowitz put in the chat. Is there some way to get religious institutions included in county composting pickup, maybe through a bill introduced by one of our county council members?
I can answer that one. So I actually did reach out to the county office that handles the composting program, and this gentleman would have loved to have been able to help us, but the fact is that the county law defines commercial property as anything that's non-residential. And I think you mentioned that earlier, Bonnie. So even though we're a nonprofit, we're still grouped as commercial. And the law specifies that the compost pickup is for residential only. And the way to change that is, as Ronnie suggested, is petition our county council to change the law. And honestly, that's one of the advocacy issues we could be pursuing. So it's one of those things, do we have a critical mass of people who want to pursue that? So if so,
I've also talked to the county, and basically there should be at least a pilot program to show that food composting, especially at large food selling organizations, I'm thinking LA Martin, the Village Center as an example, that can demonstrate that there's a massive amount of food that is going into waste containers right now that can be composted. But that requires 3 different waste streams out of a facility that's generally not designed for it. So there's a lot of challenges with that. But the county would, the county people at this Office of Sustainability are very open to that idea. They just have a problem they have to work within the law for some reason.
Well, I was just thinking of someone like Liz Walsh, who's very, very pro-environmental, pro-sustainability in so many ways, might be a good person to approach. But I think there's some other church communities, religious communities that are very involved with environmental issues. One that comes to mind is I think it's the Presbyterian Church on Route 108.
Presbyterian Church in Howard County. Yeah, Earth Forum. So I did want to say, so this is somewhat of what IPC's model of what we're trying to build in our different regions, so that congregations do all the wonderful work. I can't be prouder than of my Oakland Mills Interfaith congregations for all the work that they've done on the grounds and then the facility, but also the advocacy piece. So, what we are trying to do is, I see Susan here from Baltimore County, so learning from something like this that's happening in Howard County and taking that prep grant. I actually had a meeting with the Baltimore County folks the other day, and I said, so you're trying, you're trying to get this legislation passed on the, they're calling it the Bring Your Own Bag bill, which is a neat name, right? Bring your BYOB, Bring Your Own Bag bill. I said to them, well, in Howard County, that the funds that are being raised from the fee is going back into sustainable practices. Is there something in Baltimore? Is Baltimore County going to do the same thing? They didn't know anything about it. So, there's definitely ways for faith institutions to do that advocacy on a on the very local level to try to affect change within your own community. So, it was congregations like at OMI that wrote letters to our county council that got our fee started, right? And I mean, the overall goal is, we all would like to see a statewide plastic bag ban, right? And what our state legislators look for is for these things to have happened locally first. They don't ever want to get ahead of us. They kind of like follow behind us. So Montgomery County is doing it. Howard County is doing it. Baltimore City is doing it. Hopefully Baltimore County will do it. So we get momentum, and then the state legislators feel like they have cover that they can then pass a statewide legislative issue. So, these are the types of things that we're very excited to work with our congregations throughout Maryland and beyond. We have some folks, I think, here from Pennsylvania too, to help with getting those types of legislation passed. And what Wendy talked about, the electrification bill, like having congregations say, this is something that we're supporting, that our faith backs us, to help move this along. That speaks volumes to our local elected representatives. So we encourage you. Hopefully you saw in the chat, we are having a legislative briefing on Sunday, January 31st, so you can come and hear about some of the bills that we're following this year, and we welcome you, and we want to hear from you about things that you're interested in to try to move things along. So
I think the other thing that's very important is that people talk this up to their neighbors. It's surprisingly, especially, of course, a lot of us live in Columbia, Maryland, where basically we talk to our neighbors, and they are not members of our congregations, but they will follow practices. Teach your neighbor about a mosquito dunk, talk to them about why your lawn isn't there anymore. Things like that slowly make a small difference, and it does spread the word around very different areas that you sometimes are very surprised at.
something that we didn't, and I saw Shell's hand, something we didn't really key on, but something that I was really proud of that we did this year. So the Yards Alive sponsors a native garden tour. And so where different people in the neighborhood that have nice native gardens invite folks to come and tour their gardens, and they tell them about their plants. My plant people love their plants. They love to talk about those plants. But this year, OMI was on the tour. So we got to showcase what our faith institutions are also doing at a congregation. So I think that's a great model for other in other areas. If there are native plant tours that are being done and lots of different organizations do those. I know in Baltimore County, I think the Baltimore Green Alliance or the Towson Green Alliance, they have a native plant tour. So trying to get congregations to be on those tours to showcase what you're trying to do. That's the whole idea, is to be able to do that outreach and education, and congregations can lead the way in that.
And while we're on the topic, this year,
Dallas had her hand up.
This year, the Yards Alive tour will be on May 21st. And I'm hoping that OMI will be on it once again, and we'll have our new pollinator garden in addition to our rain gardens. And who knows, maybe by then we'll have done some work on the peace garden as well.
Bonnie, there were a couple questions about water bottles, Hans. One was, where is actually the water bottle refill station? And the second question was, how can people acquire the wonderful water bottles that we're offering?
Well, the first question is, it's right next to the restrooms. It's right adjacent to the restrooms where the old water fountain was. It replaced the old water fountain after a tremendously long experience, but shouldn't have been that long. The water bottles are in Wendy's home.
Yes.
I have mine. Well, I don't have mine here, but you saw a picture of it in the part of the presentation. They're $10, and Wendy is more than glad to get rid of them. I'm more than glad to add it to treasury so we can actually buy more plants instead of having
Yeah.
money tied up in water bottles.
These are really nice water bottles. They're stainless steel, double walled, and so they're insulated. And the retail price is about $20. So the grant is subsidizing them essentially 50%. But we do still charge a bit for them to put some money back into the coffer so that we can do more cool stuff with it.
I just put the OMI Green Team email address in the chat. You can send an email there and we'll get that to Wendy and arrange for you to buy them.
We can set something up.
Yeah.
If people, we can, whatever, we'll figure it out. Let me know if you want.
There was also another question. I don't know if she's still here. It's hard for me to see about.
There was a question about foods, about composting.
Yeah, so it
I
says,
just wanted to mention, yeah,
the Islamic-
composting is so important because if you keep food scraps out of the landfill, it's not just a matter of filling up the landfill, but it's keeping food scraps and paper out, which decomposes to create methane, a terrible greenhouse gas. But anyway, someone asked about recommendations for sturdy plates. We've been using plates that are paper without any plastic coating, and I think they've been holding up quite well.
Yeah, it depends on the ones we've been buying have actually been made out of sugarcane residue on bagasse. And that basically ends up with a very, it's again, a double whammy. It's something that otherwise would have gone into a dump being used to make a product that can be recycled and composted. So that it's a double win.
Yeah.
Aisha is still here. So Aisha, yeah, so send an email to that OMI, and I'm sure Hans can give you a list of what we've purchased, and maybe that will help you.
And they're available in large quantity at a reasonable price. They're not, it's not like it's 12 times the cost of a regular paper plate. They're not as cheap, but you know, you don't have to use 3 plates so that you can hold your food on it before it folds over.
That's good to know. Yeah, we've actually, so my name's Aisha and I'm the Green Team rep at the Islamic Community Center of Potomac. So we just kind of formed our Green Team, and we have our Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake training. We're going to attend that in March. So we're really excited about that. But to give you some context about my question, like we've been composting for the last year, and we've hired compost crew, which is like a pickup service, but they're really strict about like the stuff that they accept. So they only want BPI certified plates and bowls and utensils. And so there's a website where you maybe know about it, BPI World. And one day something's on it, the next day it's no longer BPI certified. So it's a challenge. And when we tried to pilot one of the BPI certified ones, like someone poured soup in the bowl and it like fell right through because it melted, and they kind of have to melt because you're trying to compost them. But so.
It's the same with the recyclable cups. There are some recyclable cups you pour water in and they start dissolving, which is kind of like the end of the discussion, as in there's no point in doing it. There is some problems with the certification problems is they get too strict about the component part and they don't think about the practicality. If something isn't practical, it's not getting used. So they may have a certified product. That's it. Well, it's interesting because Compost Crew is going to be our supposed compost supplier when we start at the end of January. So we should be interesting. They haven't mentioned anything about compostable certification before we got the contract. So I'm sure it'd be interesting to find out.
Just don't ask any more questions.
I will not ask a question now. I know. So
I ask too many questions and then I get dinged for it. So
and you're welcome to come visit us on on a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on Friday, Thursday, evening or daytime, to check out what we do. And if you want any ideas,
we'd love
to talk.
We'd love to do that. Thank you. And we're actually gonna start we've gotten approval from our board to go all compostable in March, because that's when Ramadan is, and we host like the iftars or the evening,
Mhm.
dinners like every like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there it's open to everyone. And we're planning to have compost monitors. We did that last Ramadan as well. But it was very confusing when you had like non-compostable plates and utensils, but then you had the food that you had, so that we had like 4 different bins, and we were like telling people what to throw where. And I got to know everyone because I was standing next to the bins, and everyone had to come to the bins.
Yes.
And so yeah, so we had our gloves on, picking everyone's bones out, showing them. So it was fun. So we're trying to get more volunteers, just like you for this year. But you're more than welcome to come over to our center. We're in Potomac.
do
We'd
so.
love to have you. And I know we'd love to visit you at OMI. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we did is as part of the program, is make everything compostable, so that there is we had a dinner for a religious meeting about a month and a half ago, where basically everything was compostable, so that basically we had nothing but a brown paper bag. It was
Awesome.
wonderful.
Yeah.
There was confusion over a clear plastic cup being compostable, but there was no confusion on our part of all of this is compostable. Please put it in a compost bag and we'll move it on. So, it's, if you get to that point, then you can, the compost monitoring, which some of us have done, becomes a little less stressful, and you don't have to get into arguments over people where number 7 on the bottle really means it's compostable and number 6 isn't, even though they look identical.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a field trip is in order, and maybe we'll get a invitation to attend an iftar dinner down at.
Absolutely. Now we're talking.
Yes.
The food is always great at those, so let's do that. I just want to be mindful, we're at 8:17. We don't want to hold you too long, so feel free to drop off if you want. But if this conversation is engaging to you and you're learning a lot, feel free to stay on. Ronnie, I see your hand up. I don't know if that's left from before or you had
No, I have another question.
Go ahead.
I have always been frustrated by, I see you have been involved with Oakland Mills Middle School, and to some extent with the high school with their food distribution program. I wondered if you have engaged the Oakland Mills High School kids in anything that has been done at, with the gardening, with the planting, just because whenever we had some ideas for doing things at OMI outdoors, there was a comment that it was fruitless to do it because the kids would come by and destroy it anyway. And that wasn't a satisfactory answer for me, but I wasn't prepared to do more than I just couldn't. But I just felt like if kids own what's going on, they're not going to destroy it. Yeah. And I wondered if anything had been done to include the kids from Oakland Mills High School in the planting or projects, the outdoor projects.
Well, let me address backwards first. Surprisingly enough, everybody was worried about what would happen to the garden. The pollinator garden is intact the way it was built. It hasn't suffered any attacks other than by squirrels. And I think at one point a groundhog that took off of 2 of our garden grass plants. And we put stop to that. But from a property, respect point of view, we haven't had any problems with any of the stuff. Unfortunately, when we reached out to the elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school, only the middle school responded. I have been on a mailing list with some of the high school people, and they're not responding to any of the inquiries from the middle school teachers because they want to start up a pipeline of training kids at the middle school level so that when they enter high school, they can become environmental ambassadors at the high school level, which there is some sort of a club. My kids all went to Oakland Mills Middle School and Oakland Mills High School because I live in the neighborhood. There happens to be one assistant principal at Oakland Mills Middle School who's highly motivated to get this done. He's pushing his teachers and actually getting things done. The elementary school is completely, one of them is completely, has never communicated. The high school has never communicated. I just hear things through the grapevine. So we keep trying. But to some extent, you know,
I understand. I
having
just wondered if that just seems like an opportunity for the
absolutely.
schools. I mean,
We
and
also worked with, there's the other barn, there's the teen
Yeah.
center at the other
So,
barn.
let
They
me
were
just-
very engaged when we did the tree planting in 2015. The kids did help with the watering of the trees.
So
But,
I
you know,
actually,
COVID kind of messed stuff up, so.
yeah, I reached out to the youth center over on the CA Youth Center that's at Oakland Mills and spoke with the director about the pollinator garden and having the kids help with that. And the problem that they had was that our activities were on the weekends, on Sunday, and their staff doesn't work on Sunday. And if they're going to be having, you know, the kids participate, they want it to be, you know, with staff. And so it could be that we'll schedule things that work out for them, you know, during the week. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. Our garden is new, but there may be other opportunities for us to engage that group. Now, as far as the high school goes, you know, Hans has formally reached out to them. I have a friend and neighbor who is the high school environmental science teacher and the head of their environmental club. And so I'm hoping to be partnering with her. As you can see, we have a lot going on and it can be difficult to do everything at
I
once.
understand. I just wondered. Yeah.
But Ronnie, seriously, and this is, I'm directing this not just to you, but to everyone. If you have interest in any of these things, this is what we need. We need people to take on these tasks, these projects, and make them happen. You know, the OMI Green Team is just literally a handful of people. And we're very ambitious. I mean, you know, see some of the stuff that, you know, Hans in particular has taken on and made happen this year. And, you know, those of us who are involved have certainly been supporting all of this and doing stuff. And we're thrilled with what we've accomplished, but it is not nearly as much as what we would like to do and what we could do if we had, you know, broader involvement. And so it's a great idea. I love it, but we do need help.
Yes. And one of the things we've had concerns about is, you know, I don't want to be sitting in the garden because I'm an old person. I'm an old person because officially I select Social Security. So having shoveled 20 yards of chip drop stuff, I can tell you that it's great physical exercise. It beats going to the health club any day. But if you're not willing to or able to perform physical labor, there are so many other things that can be done. Seed collection, supervision of kids, you know, just telling them this is where the shovel goes and don't hit you over the head, your sister over the head with the other shovel. There's a reason why we have fiberglass shovels, by the way. They're nowhere near as easy to use as weapons as some of the metal ones. But, you know, do volunteer. We have room for everybody.
Grant writing too.
Yes, grant writing is coming up again.
I didn't make the point earlier, Han. So the reason why he was late was he was presenting the plan to the OMI board with the hope that we can have a grant proposal together for the next grant opportunity through the Chesapeake Bay Trust. It was through their Green Streets, Green Jobs, Green Towns grant, which is due March 8th. So it's going to be a big push.
Don't tell people March 8th. I'm telling them March 7th.
March 7th. Okay, March 7th. So it's going to be a big push to try to get that grant application in time. And then depending upon what happens with that, the next round of grant proposals will probably be due hopefully through the county again, which I think those were done in like April, May last year, and then there'll be another round of Chesapeake Bay Trust opportunities in August. So if anyone has any grant writing skills, this is a great, we could use your help.
Yes, and as one of the proponents of the youth green team, I would love to see anybody of any age be involved. I enjoy more than anything else walking around the OMI meeting house and watching the 3-year-olds come up to me and ask me what the water fountain is all about. And the day finally they discovered the water fountain. So basically the step stool will be coming tomorrow. So they'll all be standing there. I asked for a picture. That's all I can ask for. So
Yes. Kat has her hand raised. Hey, Kat.
Hello. I was just wondering if you already knew what you wanted to ask for in your grant applications.
the world, but the design for the retention systems is being developed under one of our grants. So basically we'll have a design sometime in the middle of February that will go out for bid just in time to make a proposal for March 7th. That's basically what we have right now. The next level is when we get a new prep grant is what was the success in this year's prep grant. Obviously we can't ask for another water fountain. So, but we'll start on the composting, the environmental education. I would love to do more shopping bags and go out in the community and hit some more underserved community resources and say, basically here is, 100 or 200 shopping bags.
Have you talked to the CAA, the Community Action Agency? I don't know what it's called in Howard County.
The Community Action Council?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I work for Montgomery County. It's different, but it's the same idea. To find out what the need is, have you been able to?
We are trying to make connections, as many as we can. Hopefully, we make that connection. It all depends on somebody knowing somebody somewhere, because if you come in the front door with an email that basically says, I'm interested in working with you, it doesn't work nearly as well as coming in the back door and saying, hey, I'm Joe's brother, and I heard you're looking for somebody to do this. At that point, you get a connection. So we're working on making those connections every day.
We have a question from Gail Miller. Gail?
Yeah, it's not a question. It was just, since this is nonprofit, the high schools may be able to offer community service hours for students to come and help you, in the middle school too. And you never know, if you do that and they come, you might spark an interest in somebody to keep.
Yeah, I cannot break into the Oakland Mills High School newsletter, anything else system of doing things. I don't know any of the teachers anymore because my kids were there so long ago. But it may require finding an Oakland Mills High School parent who knows somebody. And as Wendy mentioned, maybe go to teacher route and then maybe get into the counseling department and work from there backwards.
Just make an appointment to see the head counselor at the guidance department.
It's just, what, they are so overburdened, and our teaching staff, everyone is just, they can barely really get through their days. And adding another thing is just not something that a lot of them have the wherewithal to do. Everyone is just, after COVID, they are just burnt out.
Yeah, I'm hoping that our connection with Oakland Mills Middle School, when the 8th graders are ready to start their high school prep program, so to speak, that we will be able to piggyback on top of that and say, basically, hey, they've been doing this in middle school. We'd like to continue in high school with them. Are you interested? And that may be our best entrance to, and we're working with the GT program, especially.
Yeah, the other thing is, the budgets have been cut, so their outdoor education, that whole thing has changed. So, they literally don't have to get on a bus to go anywhere to learn about stormwater in the Chesapeake Bay. They can just walk over to Oakland Mills Interfaith Center and learn about pollinator plants and stormwater right there without driving anywhere. So that's our hope, is that we'll be able to.
Yeah, the middle school principals have made it clear that their field trips are basically canceled due to money concerns, because at $1,000 a bus, they just can't afford to go anywhere. Especially not because most of the community can't afford the extra 20 or 30 or $40 for a school trip.
I'm gonna jump in and make a suggestion off the cuff, and that is for folks who are interested in any of the activities we've described, or any of the ones that are coming up, or new ones that pop into your mind, please put your name and, if you will, your email, or even just your name and your interest, if you don't want to put your email into the chat. But somehow give us an indication that you are interested in what you're interested in. And you can either reach out to any one of us, or if we have your name and we can save the chat, I think, Bonnie, you can do that. Then we can, and we know, your congregation or what have you, and reach out to you so that we can try and make some of these ideas happen. So while we have people who are interested and, excited about these things, it would be really great to know how we can engage you in these efforts. Or if you have any suggestions, if you're not in our area and you're doing something interesting in another congregation or another county, let us know, give us some input, and that would be really helpful.
Yeah, it's great. omygreenteam@gmail.com will work for that also, or go on the website and there is an information link and it pops up on an email somewhere, and basically somebody will get it and get back to you. They're all the good things. And if you see something on the event calendar, show up at an event and basically announce yourself to whoever is running it. We'll generally run around a little green team vest. Well, they look little on me. But basically, we are there.
Mine is very tall.
So the one size fits nobody routine. So we're there, we're walking around, we announce ourselves. Please announce yourself to us, and bring a note piece of paper with your name and address and email address on it, so that we can communicate afterwards and work on something. There are work days and things like that will go on the calendar hopefully in the next week. So if you check back on our events log, you'll see things that are upcoming for March and April. And the first one will be March 5th, I think, if I remember properly. Whatever that Sunday is, the first Sunday. And show up and do something.
And then I'd just like to say, give our Faithful Green Leaders training will be in March. So if you have not attended, please come and bring some other folks from your congregation. If you've already attended, you're welcome to come. We have congregations, the last session is action planning. So if your congregation has fallen a little bit on the wayside, you can come just chime in and get started on a new action plan. We're happy to have you do that. And then we've had congregations come back 2 and 3 times where they've had new members join their green team that haven't been through the training, so they come even though the rest of their team has already been through the training. So we'd love to have you there. I do want to be mindful, we're at 8:34. Sheila, I don't know if you had any words. Thank you to the Better View Sisterhood for having the idea to host this workshop. And being gracious enough for us to say, can we open it up to folks outside of OMI? Because originally it was just kind of to update everybody as to, you can see all that's been happening, just to give everybody an update as to what was actually happening. But they were willing to invite others as well. So I hope that this was useful for folks that aren't part of OMI to learn about what's going on there. So Sheila, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts.
I just wanted to close by thanking everybody again, especially the speakers. You did a magnificent job and generated, I think, a lot of excitement about your enthusiasm was just amazing. And so I hope everybody left getting as excited to support the projects that make up the greening of OMI, because I think it's important, very important. And I did have a question also before we go, and that is the training that you do is for congregations. It's for interfaith congregations training. Do you have training for communities? Is there such a thing as, like, I live in Kentlands here in Montgomery County, and there's a green team person. I'm not sure what that person does, because every time I try to get together with that person, it's impossible. So we're going to try again to get together, because we have some plantings and landscaping we want to do here. And I want to make sure I'm doing it right, and that we have the right plants and so forth. Is there training for that?
So the short answer is, so Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake, like our name says, we focus on faith organizations, schools, congregations. But we've had people from neighborhood associations attend the training, and they're welcome to come. Anybody can come. It's free. It's open. So what I suggest when I hear from someone that's from a neighborhood association, I say to them, just when we're talking congregationally and we're talking about getting the blessing of your clergy, like, they just need to interpret in their mind who their equivalent is to that. So for folks here, like, so if it was just the neighborhood, the Oakland Mills Neighborhood Association wanted to come, right? Or your right? So if it's not the clergy that you need to get the blessing of, but it's the neighborhood association board of directors, right? So
Right.
You just need to translate in your mind who that would mean in your context. That we're happy for them to come. And a lot of my congregations, just like you've heard here tonight, so the congregations are leading the way because there's a moral imperative for them to do this work, but they're working very closely with the Oakland Mills Association, right? They have buy-in from the neighborhood association, because to do that outreach, to get to the neighborhood, to influence people about their individual lawns. Yes, our model is to get to people when they're at their faith institutions, but we're also doing that outreach to reach people through their homeowners association as well. So by all means, they're welcome to attend.
Okay, I'm going to look into that. Thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
Okay, well, thank you again, everybody.
All
And
right.
I know it's after 8:30, so it's been a great session. The questions were great. The conversation at the end was just as interesting and enthusiastic as the whole presentation. And I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Can I end the meeting? I don't know if they're just hanging on or.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Yay.
Thanks, Sheila. Thanks,
Thank
Shell.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
It was
Okay.
great. Good job,
Okay.
everybody. Take care.
Okay.